It won't come up too quick there and cause somebody to miss out on a blessing, telling things about what the Lord's done for you and how He's worked in your life and those type things. And I'm sure there's a lot more of them of unspoken stuff that, such as myself. You know, a lot of times when I'm out there sitting in your seat, I don't speak up either. I don't always say things that it's on my mind at that time about things that Christ has done for me. And I use it a little bit. I know sooner or later, and this is a bad thing because I hate to see our preacher feeling bad this morning. And I was looking forward to hearing another great message today because he's, you know, I've traveled around and I've seen a lot of preachers. I know what, and you know, I know what it's all about. And I don't want to say that. You know, I look for perfection, but he's pretty darn good at it. I mean, he's really, really good as far as I'm concerned. And we just need to pray for him, get him back in here, and let him know we care and love him and that he's on our minds this morning. But, you know, I wasn't really expecting to do this today, but, you know, when the Lord calls, and we all should be that way, when the Lord calls, you need to step up. You need to try, you know, do the best you can. That's what I'm going to do this morning, as best I can, is just try to do the best I can. But when the Lord calls us, you know, we need to step up and try. And it's not it's not a lot of fun. Some of these committees that these people are on, I won't dwell a lot on it, but it's not a lot of fun because when they have to call and ask and stuff, and you know, first Mark called me last night. First thing in my mind was, what would be the first thing in your mind? You know, I don't think so. No, but I didn't say that. I didn't say that to Mark because that I know it's tough, and I'm here to help any way I can. I'm not here to hurt anyone, and but you know why? I'll ask a question. A couple things. Why did you come to church today? Think about it. Why'd you come to church today? You know, I'm going to try to talk about, I got a little thing I've tried to lay out. I talked to Mark about 8 o'clock this morning. I tried to lay out a little bit of something, but I'm going to try to talk about a couple of things that I don't want to hurt nobody, or hurt nobody's heart, but if you wait to the end, you'll see what I'm talking about and why I said some of these things. But we'll get to them, and I want to talk about the storms. Really, what I want to talk about today is some of the storms in your life. And, you know, in the past, I spoke about some of the storms in my life. And some of the things I said, some of the people here, when I got done with a couple of different ones, they come up and said, wow, that happened to me, or this same way, or the Lord works in a lot of different ways. And, you know, at any time, we should be ready to get up and tell people how much we love Jesus Christ. What's in our heart? Do we really love Him and be ready to speak about Him? Now, that's easier said than done sometimes. But we should be ready and on hand and not only here, but out in the world. Let people know you care about them. You know, when you get a chance, and I pray all the time that some of the things I do, it puts me in front of people. And I pray all the time for the Lord to give me the words when I step up to these people that I think's not Christians, because you don't really know about people, but that I think's not Christians, to give me the right words to say. And we all should say that. And like I say, I may say a couple of things today, not trying to hopefully you take it good when I say it, but you know, the story that I was talking about, we'll get to probably down towards the end of it. And that song couldn't be, the last song, what couldn't be much better, the Sweet, Sweet Spirit. This church has a really good spirit about it. And people do step up. People step up and do things and help and try to make the right things and say the right things and go along with it. But anyway, you know, when when these things are rough and the squalls hitting your life, what's the first thing you do? I know the first thing I do. I mean, this year alone for me, and I thank the Lord for it, has been challenging a little bit. Or not this year, last year was a little challenging a little bit. And everybody has problems in their life. I don't care who it is. It's how you react. And are you waiting until the problems hit you, or are you talking to Jesus every day about things? Is he ready for you to call on him? Does he know you? Cling to the hopes in the storm. Save me, O God. The flood waters are up to my neck. Deeper and deeper I sink into the mire. I can't find a foothold. I am in deep water and in flood overwhelming me. I am exhausted from crying for help. Psalm 69, 1 through 3. And as I talk today, something that, that when storms bother you, like what I'm talking about, I think about Jesus when he was in that boat, and the disciples was with him, and the way they were feeling and how things were going. And they when that water come up and it started getting rough, the winds was blowing, Jesus had had a hard day that day. He had thousands and thousands of people that he had been talking to and preaching to and explaining stuff. And Jesus was like us. He took mortal man. Hey, he got tired. He got hungry. He got exhausted. He was out there just like them, and yeah, he was asleep. He was asleep on that boat when things was going on. What doesn't we ask us to, God doesn't ask us to walk on water. And in the fourth watch of the night, he came to them and walking on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, "It's a ghost." They're out there with him right now, and they've been traveling with him. And they still, in some way, don't believe it. They thought it was just another ghost, and they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Take heart, it is, and do not be afraid." As Peter answered to him, "God, the Lord, if it is the commandment me to come to you on the water." And he said, so Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. Matthew 14, 25 through 29. It's took a lot of nerve to step up when another man tells you when you think your life's going to be in danger. And to them, they were still somewhat looking at Jesus like he was just another mortal man that was doing miracles and stuff. When they asked him that, they didn't think about him doing a miracle. Actually, I think, now this is my personal self, I think they were waking him up and saying, "Get a hold of this oar here. You've been asleep for the last 4 or 5 hours. Help us row this thing." And then the miracle started. And I could be wrong about that, but that's what I think. Even which it seems that Jesus is sleeping in your boat, he is still with you and for you. When do we think Jesus is not with us? I mean, do we get terrified sometimes? And I know my personal self in my life, when I've had times that when things has happened and I've stepped back and death is inevitable. We don't like to talk about it. We don't like to really hear about it. But death is inevitable. That's just the way it is. But in my life, there's been a lot of things that I've been through that I've experienced overcoming. Jesus helping me overcome that, but also things going the other way. I mean, let's face it. Hey, I've lost my mother, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, son. I mean, it's it's tough sometimes. It really is. And sometimes you need to just sit down and talk about it when them storms hit you. We was in Sunday school class the other day. I didn't get to go today, but we was in Sunday school the other day, and like I said, Brenda, she brought up something about WC and was telling how much she missed him and this, that, and the other. But then over time, her praying and stuff, the Lord stepped back in and took command. And, she was down and out in a while. And I love to hear people share. And I love to hear other people share, even though I don't share as much but I love to hear people share. Esther stepped up and talked about Archie a little bit, and it just warmed my heart to hear these ladies talk about things in their past and how they've been able to overcome those things and move forward. But in the same respect, talk about missing them and how much they've missed them. And it's storms in life, but Jesus tells you when you look at things, Jesus talks to you about He's there for you. You got to be willing to step up somewhere along the line and let Him take charge. That's easy said. I've had times in my life that I just couldn't understand. I try to understand it, but it's really hard. But sometimes it seems that Jesus is asleep through some of these circumstances, the crises that we have, especially when it's going on in years. But how do we understand this? Jesus' hard spent an entire day. He didn't spend an entire day teaching when these disciples was calling on Him and stuff. And look what they got. I mean, when He stepped up, and look what all happened. If you go on and you look at some of this stuff, look at Jonah. Jesus' episode of the water was not the only one. Jonah had an episode, also with the water. And he had to overcome his fears and stuff. Well, we're the same way. We have to overcome the heartfelt fears of what it's going to be in time without. And He will bring us back to the light. That sweet, sweet spirit we were singing is just, it's really a nice song. Jesus was with him, and He did have the boat. Neither of them was abandoned. He never abandoned. And He'll never abandon you if you'll ask Him. If you'll talk to Him, He's there. I've seen times, like I say, I've seen times myself that even when I was going through stuff, that when I spoke, I got down to the nitty gritty and got to talk to the Lord about what was going on. And in one spot, doctors are saying, hey, this is tough, get ready, it could go different things. And the other side, Jesus, I look down at Jesus, I've told His story. Sometimes I tell the same thing twice. But when you do that, I want to make sure I'm trying to emphasize that before I went under the needle and the sleep, I seen Jesus walking with me. Believe it or not. Back this year, Gail had some pretty tough stuff, and I'm really proud that she's still here with us, and I'm really thankful to the Lord that He let me keep her a little bit longer. And I told her, I said, it don't really matter. Let her stay, and I'll take her however you give her to me. It don't make no difference. It don't have to be always, the same way. But, you got to on one hand tell the Lord what you'd like. Remember, you got to accept what the Lord gives you. And it could have been a lot worse than it is. And I'm grateful for it. When Paul, when he knew that Jesus was always with him. And that's the way we need to be. And that Jesus loved him completely. He wrote, what shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall trouble and hardship or persecution and pain shall nakedness or danger or swords? No, it's all these things. We are more than conquerors through him who loves us. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels or demons, neither the present nor the present or the future, nor the power, neither height or depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God. That is in Jesus Christ our Lord. Romans 8:35, 37 through 39. You know, Paul knew, Paul come from kind of, we've talked about that. Paul come from, just a complete disbeliever. And then to the words that he wrote in life is really something. Jesus compared, his life to also, we talked about, to the prophets of Jonah, who also experienced a traumatic storm in the sea. How does Jonah's story echo the same thing to us? There's a lot of different ways that Jonah's story and Jesus' story is the same way. It's all about faith. It's about having faith and having faith in Jesus Christ and having faith in the Lord of what we're doing. When has Jesus felt the closest to you? I mean, when have you sat down and I told you a minute ago, when I was fixing to go on that operation, I really felt Jesus with me. I'm serious. When in your life have you felt that? I mean, there's got to be times that you've had things that you just think there's no hope, but it's there. And it's inevitable that we're going to lose people. That's just the way it is. But in hope, Jesus puts a lot of hope in us to things that's going to go forward. And even if things don't go exactly right, there's still hope for tomorrow. What are you going to do with your life tomorrow? You can't dwell on one thing. You got to move forward and help other people. My personal self, that's the way I think. When I speak, I speak about what I think. And I hope, when I say, sometimes I say us, I really mean me. I don't mean y'all. I'm talking about myself, really, is what I'm talking about. But I try to sit down and talk with the Lord every day. I try to tell him what I need or what I think I need, and then he shows me the way it's really going to be. That's just the way it is. I'm bad to get up every now and then and wander around the house a little bit in the middle of the night. You wake up and and I got a picture up on my kitchen wall in there that's a picture of Jesus. Many a time at 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 4 o'clock, I'll stop at that table and stand there and talk to Jesus. That's just the way I do things. I want him to know what's in my heart and what's on my mind as I'm going forward. Don't wait to call on Jesus. A fierce squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat, so that I was nearly swamped. Jesus was at the stern, sleeping. And the disciples woke him up and spoke to him, and the teacher said, he talked about, don't worry, teacher, you don't care. He got up and rebuked the winds and said to the waves, quiet, be still. Then the winds died down and it was completely calm. That's Mark 4:37 through 39. Like I said, those 12 disciples, they were still working on checking their faith as to what their faith really was. They wasn't really sure about Jesus yet. Like I said, when they woke him up, it wasn't really that he was going. They just wanted him to help him get him to shore. I think, let's get on the oar. You've been asleep for 5-6 hours. Grab a hold of this stick. Let's get after it. But Jesus, he stepped up and stepped out on the water. They did discover, woke him up, and the waters came over the feet, and they waited until they were sure that they were going to drown before they woke Jesus. Of course, Because of that, they were saved themselves. Isn't this our human nature, that we want to be strong and self-sufficient? You know, a lot of times we think we can handle it. We think that we really don't. Or I want to remember what I said now. I'm talking about myself, not y'all. But sometimes I think, well, I got this. I got it. You know, I don't need to pray about every little thing. Well, if you read the Bible, you need to pray about everything, really. But, you know, I get, look, I say, I can handle this. But they really want to be rescued by Jesus. I mean, you know, you have to think about what's going on, and when it gets down to the nitty gritty, you better have him on your side. You know, but in our silence of our pride and of our self-significance only, prolonging the deep of the suffering, makes the threat worsen. You know, King David wrote in Psalms 32, he talked about, when I kept silent, my bones wasted away through the groaning of all the days long. Verse 3. While David was lamenting his delay in the confession of his sins, the point is the same, that waiting to come to God only worsens the length of our suffering. You know, there's David. You know, he knew he had a lot of stuff on his mind that he needed to get off. He needed to tell the Lord and confess, you know, his sins and tell him what he's done. And we're the same way. We need to sit down. I know what's in my heart. I know what's there. And when things gets there that's not right, I need to sit down and talk to him and say, wait a minute, you know. And believe me, we all have that. I know it's not unique to me. But when things happen, sometimes things happen. You know, and then we expect miracles. Don't wait until the boat is about to sink to call on Jesus. He is with you even before the winds arose. Call on him continuously, and consider, like King David, that his sins and the life of confessions in the same. Psalms above David's rights. And then you go on, you talk about, therefore let us all be faithful. Pray to you while you may be found. Surely the rising of the mighty waves will not reach them. You are my hidden place. You will protect me from trouble and surround me with the songs of deliverance. Verse 6 and 7. You know, call out to Jesus today. Let him know that you hear him and that his response. That's really what we need to be doing. We need to be calling out today. Yeah, I said something a minute ago about talking about some things that's it's uneasy, and you know, I hit on a couple of them, and you know, sometimes just sit down, make a list of all the things that the Lord's done for you. Better get some paper. You got some money to buy that paper. Because make you a list. Because the list will be long if you really sit down and think about it. And then sit down and think about, you know, what do you need to do for the Lord? He looks for us. It's not just what he does for us. He looks for us. What is it we can do what can we do for him? I like to sit down sometimes and just write things on a piece of paper that I know that the Lord's helped me. You know, it's like I said, sometimes in life it's tough. I said Gail was sick, and it was rough at that time because not only was Gail sick, but we lost Billy also at the same time. So you got one going, one you think might go. It's rough. You've been there. I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. Now, some of the young people has not experienced some of that stuff yet. Some of our younger people haven't. But most of the older people in here have seen some pretty tough times, you know. But you got in them tough times, for the time that the Lord gives you with those people, that's when you got to be thankful for it. You got to say, Lord, I appreciate it. Enough. I got one more day. Wow. Yeah, that's really about what it's all about. And I know it was really tough on Georgia. I couldn't be there more than I could, but and we lose people. You know, it's like I said, I don't want to hurt nobody. I lost Jamie a few years. I don't know if I'll be able to do that one. Let me do it a second. When the storms is there, God has equipped us with love and forgiveness of other people. But in some passings, it's worse. You may think as much about your mother, or your brother, or your husband, or whoever as much as you think of a child. I can't believe sometimes it's still day to day it's there. But anyway, let me move on. I struggled with it really, really, really bad. I mean, after it was over with, I couldn't deal with it. And I went on for a month or so, and I was asking the Lord myself, what is it? Why is this? And I went into some pretty dark places that I'd never been before. Pretty dark. And, sometimes in life people are different. Gail's not a talker. She won't talk about it. Me, I won't talk about it. People are just different. That's just the way it is. But anyway, in that process, I went to some pretty dark side. And I had some pretty evil thoughts that ranged through my mind. It really did. Finally, one day I was down in Durham, and my boss walked in the door, and he said, how you doing? This was like, 6 weeks later, 5 weeks later. And I'm doing pretty good. And he come in, he looked around. He sat down for a minute. He got up. And he's never done it before. Well, I take that back. He had shut my door before, because if you want to talk about some kind of business, he didn't want anybody here. But he got up and shut my door. And I thought, I got to do something here now. And he said, tell me, how you really doing? And I'm fine. I'm great. Because you want to go in denial about things. And, I've had this stuff on my mind about talking about it a long time. I really have. I've told y'all other stuff, but I've never told you nothing about this stuff. Anyway, he kept on. You got to talk to me. And he said, you need some help. I said, no, I got help. I'm all right. I'll be fine. He said, no, you need some help. He said, I want you to see a professional person. And he kind of pushed the issue, and I said, well, okay. So I come home and told Gail, I got a couple of names I got to call. And I did. I went and seen a professional person. The word is psychiatrist, I guess that's what you want to say. But I went and seen one, and it's a lady, and I got in this room with her, and it was late in the afternoon. I always try to do things in the afternoon after my job, and me and her sat there and talked. And she didn't talk much. She prompted, and after about an hour, she said, okay, I need to see you next week. My boss had kind of pushed the issue. I had to do it. And I was really, I'm serious. I was really in a dark place over this. And the next week I went and seen her, same thing. She said, she had asked questions and listened to me talk. And I kept thinking, wow, I don't know whether this is good or better or worse or what is it. I wasn't feeling no relief. My personal self, it wasn't getting me, She said, I'm going to see you in 2 weeks. I said, okay. 2 weeks come, and I set the appointment up for about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I went in, and it was the same thing. And I asked her some questions, and she asked me some. And she was telling me, you need to do this and this and this. And I said, well. She said, I'll see you in 2 or 3 weeks. We set up a time. It was about 5:30 in the evening, and it was kind of, I believe it was kind of sort of, I don't know, it was warm like going into August. And I went outside and sat down in the car. I said, what are you doing? Tell me, what are you doing talking to her? And I said, Lord, I don't need to talk to her. I need to talk to you. Me and you need to talk about this. And we had a meeting right there in that car. I don't remember. It was a pretty good while. Everybody had cleared out of the parking lot and gone home. And me and the Lord sat there and we talked about this. And I said, I don't need to be talking to her. I need to get back talking to you. And at the end of the conversation with the Lord, I felt like a load had been lifted off my chest. I went back to work. I was able to work. My boss could see I wasn't being able to really, he didn't really care. He wasn't pushing me because I wasn't functioning quite, but he just wanted to see me get better. But I was able to go back to work, do the things I needed to do. And me and the Lord got back on the track because I was kind of pushing a little bit towards why me? Why a 38-year-old young'un? What is this? What's going on here? And there's a lot of people, and there's people right here in this church that's felt the same pain. And I know it. I know it. Yet after one of the deals up here that I done, I had 2 or 3 people come up and tell me some of the circumstances. And it was just heartfelt to hear, not that how they handled it, how they was able to take it and go forward, but they used Jesus Christ as they did it. You know, and that's what it's all about. You know, that's been something that I've wanted to share, and I've never shared it before. And the storms is going to rise. You just got to know Jesus is there with you. He's walking right there with you. He's beside you. He's in the boat. Don't forget it. You know, at that point in time, I forgot it. I really had forgot it. Or I didn't want to think about it because I kind of felt like in some ways I was let down. You're not let down. He's got a plan for us all. He's got a plan of what's going on. He knows what's happening, and we just have to accept it. When we see the rough squalls, we just need to calm down and say, Lord, you got this. He will never abandon you. He'll always be right there with you, holding your hand. You'll be able to feel it. When I really feel it and I think about it, I feel like sometimes he can touch me. That's me. I feel it. Don't wait, to call on Jesus. You need to call on him. You need to step up to the plate and let him know how much that you care about him, because he's going to be there for you. It's not an easy thing to do. And sometimes it's not easy to admit things, because I'm a tough knothead. I think I can handle everything. Well, believe me, you can't handle everything, but Jesus can. He's yours. He's there for you. He can handle it. If you'll give it to him, he'll put a calmness in your heart. And like I say, you're not going to get over it. Today I'm a different person, really, from that time. And it's took me time to move on. I never forget it, but it's took me time to move on. I didn't just, next day jump back in there and say, well, this is what life's all about. It's not what life's all about. What life is all about is where you go in that next step. You better be thinking about it. You better be thinking about, are you ready, really, really ready to meet Jesus Christ? Can you feel him in your heart? I didn't have a lot of time on this one today. There was a time in my life, and I've said it before, that, I actually wanted to be a preacher, and the Lord said, no, I got other things for you to do. That's not your calling. And I believe that. And he's used me in a lot of other ways. He really has, and I see them. But, when you say your prayers, make sure that your heart's where it should be. Because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about getting your heart prepared for when them storms hit you, because they're coming. Jesus was just a mortal man. He felt flesh. He felt the pain. Can you imagine what he felt like on the cross? Can you imagine? I still think about when the nails can you think about that? What the nails felt like when they hit that, because he felt all the pain. But he did it for us. And we need to follow up. We need to be ready to meet him. What a glorious day that's going to be when that happens. Would you bow your heads and we'll close in prayer. Father, thank you for just allowing us to be here today. Just thank you for being in our hearts and coming with us and helping us in hard times, good times, sad times. Just be with us as we go forward. Be with us as we go out into the world. Give us the words to talk to people that don't know you and don't know exactly who you are and how to get there. Give us the right words to say to them, to help them and bring them into the house of the Lord. Father, I pray for the people today that's on our prayer list and our preacher and the different ones. Just be with them and let them know that we care. And the ones that's home today, just let them know that we're thinking about them and praying for them, and that if there's anything to do that can be done for them, they need to give us a call and let us go forward helping you to spread your word. Amen.